Hey YouTubers, Muskrat Jim here. Adirondack is an Iroquois name for the Algonquin tribes who used to live in the Adirondack areas. And the name actually means bark eaters or tree eaters. An interesting note is that porcupine in the Iroquois language is also called Adirondack. And that's because the porcupines basically just eat tree bark. Now, the Adirondack natives of eastern North America, they used to eat the inner bark of the white pine tree. Now, other barks are edible too. Bark of any kind of pine, the spruces, maples, birches. Those are the better tasting ones. And then there's some that are quite bitter, like poplar and aspen, and well, there's quite a few others as well. Just like any other types of foods, certain foods are going to taste better to you than certain other foods, and a lot has to do with how they're prepared. Tree bark is around all year long, so it's available in the dead of winter. So if you're up against it in a survival situation in the winter, trees could save your life. So come along and we'll see what we can find. Okay, here we have what's left of some bear droppings. Now, it's been here for a while and there's ATV tread marks in it. Now, upon closer inspection, I'm going to try to get real close here. You can see that it's full of seeds. So this one, this bear, was eating quite a bit of, looks like choke cherries. Seeds and all. Well, of course they're going to eat seeds and all. Now this is a white pine. You can tell by its really long needles. And if you break off a tuft of needles, there's actually 5 needles all joined together at the base there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now these make an excellent pine tea, and we're going to make some of that in a little bit. But we're going to talk about the bark now. Instead of cutting the trunk and killing the tree, we're just going to take a little bit from a branch here. Okay, so we'll just pull these needles off. Let's try to get to the bark. And I'm just going to peel off the outer bark. Try not to peel off the inner bark. Now, the inner bark is what's next to the wood, and we can peel it up this way. Now when you're dealing with pine, you're going to get quite a bit of pine pitch. It's real sticky, but it is edible too. Now as you can see, it's quite stringy, and you can eat it like that fresh, but it stays stringy like this. If you were to fry it up in some oil, it becomes crispy and it's better tasting. It's really not bad. It's not as bad as the smell might make you think it's going to be. It's really quite sweet. Once you've chewed it up quite a bit, you can just swallow it. There's a guy at survivaltips.com. He said the best way to do it is to peel it off in pieces and then fry it up in a frying pan with some olive oil or something. and it makes it really crispy, and it's not quite as stringy that way. You get kind of sticky when you're dealing with pine. Okay, let's go find a spruce. Okay, so this is a spruce. As you can see with close inspection, the needles are not in bundles. They just grow individually right on the twigs. Also, the thing about the spruce is if you roll you can roll the needle in between your fingers, because it's sort of like a square. It's kind of hard to see there, but it's square. Now a balsam fir, if I can find some of that around here, I'll show you the difference. The needles are about the same length. However, instead of growing all the way around the twig, it's actually more like as if that were compressed and it would be flat. The other thing about the balsam fir, it also has individual needles like these, but they're flat as well, and so you can't roll them between your fingers. Okay, so let's take this spruce branch and give spruce bark a try. So again, we'll pull out all the needles. Can also make spruce tea. Spruce tea was used in North America to combat scurvy when the Europeans would come across after only eating like salt fish and dried bread, no vitamin C at all. When they came to North America, they were given spruce tea, which is really high in vitamin C, and it cured their scurvy. Okay, so again, we'll take the back of our knife and just scrape off the outer bark. Being careful not to scrape off too much of the inner bark while we're at it. Just want to get the coarse outer bark off. Okay, and then we can just scrape up the inner bark like that. There again, you've got your inner bark. The inner bark of spruce is a little woodier than that of the white pine. The flavor is not disagreeable, but it isn't as good as the white pine. The white pine was actually quite sweet. The spruce is a little more bitter. Another thing you can do to soften up the bark would be to boil it in water and then drink the tea, and then you could eat the bark that's left over. Okay, so let's go try to find some more trees. Okay, so here we have a paper birch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that live branch right there and try to get some bark, some inner bark off of it. Okay, this white on the birch is actually wood. So what we want to get is that light green stuff right underneath the dark brown stuff. So we have to scrape this very lightly. try to get the dark off. While leaving the green intact. And now we'll scrape up the green inner bark. And give that a try. Well, it's really not bad. But I think I still prefer the white pine better. Well, let's go try to find a maple tree. Okay, so here's our maple. And same technique. Scrape off the outer bark, trying to leave the inner bark undisturbed. And then we'll scrape up the inner bark. I'm trying to leave the wood behind. Maple. Well, it's not bad. It's got a distinctive flavor as well. Not as sweet as I thought it would be. Yep, no doubt about it. The white pine is the better of the four that I've tried. Good though. Now some people say you're supposed to take the needles and chop them up real fine and put them in the water and then let them steep. And other people say you put the needles in whole and then let them steep. And yet other people say put the whole twig right in there and then it's easy to pull all the needles out all at once when the tea is finished steeping. So in order to keep it simple, there won't be any chopping up of any needles in this video. They're going in whole. Now we'll let that come to a boil, and then it should be fine. Okay, I can hear it boiling now. Oh yeah, it's a slow boil, but it's boiling. So I'd say that's pretty well ready to have. Now this pine tea isn't dark like tea that you get from India or whatever, but I think it's good. And those little bits in the water isn't going to hurt you either. We've already determined that pine is edible, so those little bits left in the pot, wouldn't worry about them at all. So until next time, this is Muskrat Jim. Salute.